Hi, welcome to another episode of Icelandic for Foreigners. Today we're going to be talking about Icelandic pronunciation for the first four letters in the Icelandic alphabet: A, Au, Bie, and Sie. We're going to be talking about how these letters are pronounced and how their pronunciation can vary from word to word depending on the letters that are around them. I guess I'm going to give a sort of a preface to this video that there are going to be a lot of rules in these videos, and I wouldn't expect you to just remember them all from watching this video one time. That's really unlikely. And that's okay, because developing good pronunciation just happens over time, and learning rules for some people is not the best way, although it works for others. So I guess my suggestion would be to try and take at least one rule from each of these letters as you're watching this video and start applying it as you're reading things or as you're trying to speak. And then just come and rewatch the video sometime later, and maybe you'll learn a different rule and you'll be able to start doing a different rule better later. And that's okay if you just build it one step at a time. That's usually how it goes in the real world. All right, so the first letter is A, and those symbols underneath the letters in the brackets, that is, I'll be representing some of the words with the International Phonetic Alphabet, which for some of you that doesn't mean anything. And if it doesn't mean anything to you, then I would recommend just ignoring those letters down there. For some people, that's helpful in learning what sounds we're talking about. But if it doesn't mean anything to you, then you can just go ahead and ignore them and just listen to me pronouncing them instead. All right, so let's talk about what there is to know about the letter A. And some of these principles are going to be applicable to all vowels, like this first rule, which is that it can be long or short. I mentioned in my intro to pronunciation video that all vowels in Icelandic can be long or short. And when we're talking about a vowel being long or short, we're not talking about the sound of it changing, we're talking about how long you hold it for. And so here are two examples, one with a long and one with a short A. So the first one, tala, that's with a long vowel, tala. And the reason it's long is because it's only followed by one consonant. The next word, talti, talti, is a short A because it's followed by a consonant cluster, if you remember from that first video. So A, just like every other vowel in Icelandic, has a long and a short form. Okay, the second thing to know about the letter A is the combination AU. And you'll see this a lot in Icelandic. You'll see AU written next to each other. And it doesn't sound anything like what you would expect. It doesn't sound like the combination of those two letters individually. It's a completely new sound, and the sound is ö. And so I've got some examples here. Þau, which is the word for they in Icelandic. Þau. And the next one, this is an example of the short form of it. Haust. Haust, which means autumn. So you can see that the AU sound, it doesn't sound anything like you'd expect. It's just a new sound altogether. I know that there's a temptation, especially if you speak any German or anything like that. You see AU and you think that it's going to sound like ow. But that's not what it sounds like in Icelandic. So that's going to take some practice maybe for some of you to start saying þau and haust instead of the temptation to maybe say thou and haust. All right, I actually have some words that have that sound in it just so you can hear it, so it can kind of start getting ingrained in your mind. So auga, that means eye. Rauður, red. Laus means free. Braut is a word for road. Each of those ones is a long ö. The other column is all short vowels. Traust, austur, kaust, and raust. And those mean respectively trust, east, chose, and tor. All right, the next rule number 3 for what you need to know about the letter A, is the combination ANG or ANK. A doesn't sound like A anymore, it sounds like the next letter that we're going to talk about, ow. So here are some examples. This word, langar. When you see A, your first intuition is maybe to say langar, langar, but the ANG combination an ow sound, langar, langar. And then this next one, farangur. So that first A is regular and it's long, far, but the second one has the ANG combination, so it's ow, farangur. And then this last one with an A and K, banki, banki. All right, so the review for the letter A. One, it can be long or short, just like any other vowel in Icelandic. The AU combination sounds like Ö, and ANG or ANK, the A sound becomes OW, so it becomes AUNK or AUNK. All right, great, let's go ahead and move on to the next letter, this funky looking one. And the sound that it makes is OW. That's the name of this letter, OW. Okay, so here's what you need to know about the letter OW. There's really only one thing to know, and that is it can be long or short, just like any vowel in Icelandic. So here are some examples. Fá, that means to get. Fá, it's a long ow. And then a short one, ást, ást, which means love. All right, so I have an exercise here where I'm going to give you some words, and you are going to pause the video in a second, and you're going to try and pronounce each of these words and try and make the right sound for the A that appears in each of them. Okay, so go ahead and pause it now and pronounce those words to yourself, and then when you're ready, continue the video. All right, so I'm going to now say those words, and you can see if you got it right. The first one is santur, santur, just a regular short A sound. The next one is fangi, fangi, and that should be the ow sound because of the ANG. The next one is öli, öli, and that's because of the AU. The next one is náði, náði, and the last one is alin, alin. All right, one more set. Go ahead and pause the video and pronounce these to yourself. Okay, so I'm going to read them now and you can see if you got them right. The first one is öymur, öymur. There's that AU sound again. The next one is háskóli, háskóli. And that's actually a long ow sound. I know it looks like it should be a short one because of the consonant cluster, but skóli is actually, this is a combination of two words, há and skóli. So that how is actually going to remain long because it's almost as if it's its own word. And I know that's confusing, but you don't have to worry too much about it right now. The next one is tjáningur, tjáningur, svangur, svangur, kaust, kaust. All right, so hopefully the distinction between the A and the ow is clear. I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next letter now, which is bie, bie. Okay, so the first thing to know about the letter bie is at the beginning of words, it sounds very similar, basically just like the English B. And so with this letter, you really don't need to worry about it too much because we have the letter B in English and there's not a huge difference. There are some that I'm going to talk about in a minute. All right, so here are two example words with it at the beginning. Bær, bær, and botli, botli. That B should sound pretty normal to you because they pronounce it basically the same as we do in English. And those words mean town and cup, respectively. All right, rule number 2 for it. In the middle of the word, it also basically sounds just like the English B. So here's an example. Óbærilegur, óbærilegur, and embætti, embætti. That B sound at least should sound pretty normal to you. All right, here's where it gets a little bit different. I talked in my earlier video about certain consonants in Icelandic being doubled, and that means that we hold them for longer. B is one of those consonants. It can be doubled. And when you double it, it sounds more like a P. In reality, it's actually pronounced the same as it was in those other words, but for our English ears, it sounds more like a P when it's in the middle of words. So here's an example. And listen to how I double the sound of the B in this word. Pappi, pappi. And the next word, rap, rap. All right, and now that's all we have for B. It's pretty intuitive. You just have to watch out for that double sound. There's a lot of tendency for Americans when they see these words to say papi. But we're going to turn that basically into this P sound, and we have to make sure that we double it. Papi. That's a very important word for anyone speaking Icelandic. As you probably know, it's the word for dad or father. Papi. All right, very quickly on the letter C, it's part of the Icelandic alphabet. It's pronounced sie. You don't really need to know much about it because it's not really in any Icelandic words, which is silly. But if you ever do see it written in Icelandic text, you can probably just pronounce it like you would in English because it probably is a word that comes from English in the first place. So it might either be pronounced like a k or a s sound, but you don't really need to worry too much about it. So that's all for this video. Thanks for watching. I know there were a lot of rules kind of dumped on you, and if you don't remember all of them right off the bat, that's all right. Just try and take a few away and start applying them into your speech and into your reading. My recommendation is to read aloud and try and be thinking about these rules and incorporate them into your reading. And then just come back and watch this video sometime and you can try and get some of those rules that you didn't get this first time and try and get better at them.